Hello and welcome to another Let's Play. Me, GamerWolfSix of Echo. Before we start, if you're interested in playing this game, it's on itch.io for free. But if you want to support the people that made this game and are making other games, you can go to their Patreon, $3 a month. So, on last Let's Play, we went after Kudzu. We heard the train and then it kind of disappeared in the night, you know, the sound. And we also found Jenna, who was saying, hey, yeah, one day I woke up, TJ was in a daze, he went to the lake, I followed him, then he attacked me, I ran away, then I felt like I was in kind of a dream state, and then you found me out here, sometime later. So yeah, and now our plan is to go back to Leo's place with Kudzu and Jenna. So let's reset my face and start. Also, I did look at someone else's Let's Play. There's like maybe 3 hours of game left, at least according to how fast they would read. I didn't actually look too much into it, even though I know the spoilers of this route. Heck. Should maybe just not look at walkthroughs, because my eyes are like, what happens? I head back outside, while Kudzu hangs back at the door, by the door. Just make it quick, and again, yell if something happens. It's fine. I'll only be a few feet away. Also, I'm taking a pee. I hide a small smile at how motherly Kudzu's being right now. I think that's his, Chase's thing. After everything that's happened, it's no wonder. I move around to the side of the trailer, back into the darkness. Quickly, I unbutton my zip down and fly. Down my fly. I started to go when I hear some footsteps behind me. I look over my shoulder. Mother hecker. Kudzu, what? And then 2 massive paws wrap around my body. I look down and get a glimpse of thick claws and brown matted fur. Again? I scream as I'm pulled back into the dark towards the desert. I know who it is immediately. The smell is unmistakable. That, and the high-pitched voice, cursing as he drags me along through the brush. Chase! Kudzu's scream, as seems like it's only a few yards away. He's going to catch up with us, then I don't know what. Yeah, he doesn't have a gun. I try to fight Brian off, I guess, but just as I'm thinking that, Brian picks me up off the ground and practically throws me. Next thing I know, my head is throbbing, as the back of it knocks against something hard. My legs are all splayed upwards. My foot pads press against something smooth and cool. I hear more cursing and the sound of snarling. Kudzu? Then I hear the sound of a car door slam, and I realize I'm in a truck, my feet pressed against the windshield. Brian's massive bulk squeezes in next to me, and I feel the truck accelerate. The backside wobbles back and forth as the sand. Backside wobbles back and forth in the sand as it tries to find purchase in the ground. Wait, are my feet against a windshield? But then we find the road, and I press back into the seat as Brian steps hard on the gas. I scramble upright into a seat position, pressing my back as far as I can against the door, away from Brian. He doesn't seem to be paying attention to me right now, with his eyes fixed on the road. My heart hammers in my chest. Well, how does he seem to always find me? I can't even start to comprehend what's happening to me. Is this real? Am I dreaming? How did I end up fucking things up so badly again? Like, it just seems to follow him, you know? Brian takes a hard turn, and I almost tumble into him. In a panic, I kick my feet against the side, keeping myself upright against the door. The big bear grunts and glances at me before fixing his eyes on the road. I quickly draw my feet back, pressing my knees against my chest, as I try to hold on to the chair to keep from falling over. I realize then that Brian must have been waiting for me, waiting outside Kudzu's trailer for a perfect moment to grab me. I'd given him my given it to him by idiotically skipping outside to take a piss, the result of which I can smell wafting up from my pants. I don't care though. Everything is numb right now, and my mind is racing, trying to figure out how I am going to get out of this. A paw automatically reaches back and pulls the door handle. It's locked. My paw feels along the door, looking for the lock. My fingers pass over a small hole where I assume it should be, but it's smooth. It's like the little nub for the pop-up lock is missing, or that's been cut off. Swallowing hard, I keep searching. My fingers come across the window crack handle. I tentatively start to roll it down. It's clear that I haven't had thoughts ahead as Brian immediately notices the drafting air. He lunges at me, one hand on the steering wheel. I scream and dodge out of the way, somehow, falling into the footwell as I try to escape his massive paws. He doesn't grab me, instead reaching for the handle and rolling the window back up. The truck swerves back and forth as he does, and for a moment I'm sure he's about to roll the whole thing with how fast he's going. He finally sits upright again. Do that again, and I'll knock you out. Ooh, that's a weird sound. Give me a sec. Sorry. And still, he doesn't look at me. It's only then that I notice the stark difference in his demeanor, has now compared to the first few times I'd seen him. There's no lust, no animalistic drive to fuck everything around him. Instead, there's a sort of desperation about him. I see his eyes dart around in the glow of the headlights, the fur all over his face matted down from sweat. Also, might as well change my face. There we go. I sit there in the footwell, staring up at him, gripping onto the seats, as my head knocks back against the gloved compartments. After a few minutes of erratic driving and swerving, I gather my wits enough to speak. What are you doing? Brian's eyes look down towards me, then back up to the road, before he shakes his head. He does it slowly, like he can't believe something, but he doesn't say anything, at least not for a while. Then, after what could have been anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes, he speaks. Can you tell me the truth, boy? I sit there quietly, contemplating making a jump for his door, to open it and tumble out into the desert. If I wasn't injured badly enough, or if I even survived for that matter, maybe I could make a run for it. What truth? What's going on in this town? Oh my god. I squeeze my eyes shut and let my forehead thump against the seat, but only for a moment before I want to be able to keep it on Brian, since I want to be able to. I already told Duke I have no fucking clue. You were there. Brian grunts as he continues to stare out the windshield, clearly thinking about something. I can't help you or anyone here, Brian. I'm just trying to find a way out. That gives me an idea. Wait. I might know a way to get out of here. If you let me go, I'll tell you. As soon as that comes out of my mouth, I wonder if I made a mistake. Brian doesn't need to let me go to get me to tell him what he wants. I'm alone here with him, and he can do whatever he wants to me. And probably tell him whatever he wanted to hear. But he surprised me with what he says next. Escaping ain't a good fix for any of this. We're all still gonna see the same shit. I wait, but he stays quiet. It takes me another minute to work out the courage to ask, see what? You know exactly what. He screeches at me in a high-pitched voice, and the truck swerves precariously. I can imagine the tires sliding off the road for a moment before Brian corrects it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He says more gently, that taking a deep breath to calm himself. Then he looks down at me. Don't you? I swallow hard, waiting to find the right answer, but unsure of what that might be. Like, when Duke saw something on the ceiling in the diner? That's the first thing that comes to mind. It's something that Brian saw with me. He lets out a cold guffaw. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Otter. That, and every fucking thing else. The truck takes another hard turn, and I brace myself in the little well. It swerves, and turns are becoming more frequent. I can't really see out the window, but I'm pretty sure we're headed into the mountains. Was that creature thing going to attack us? Should I warn Brian? But we've all been seeing shit for a long time, even before this crazier shit started a few days back. Brian glances down at me again. Haven't you seen stuff here? My mind immediately thinks back to when I was a kid. I'd seen plenty of things, plenty of horrible things. But the psychiatrist had said that that was normal, that sometimes kids hallucinate. I noticed that Brian is not wearing a seatbelt, and I start to toy with the idea of grabbing the wheel. Again, I might be killed. I mean, we're not wearing a seatbelt either. It would at least stop Brian from taking me to where he's taking me. It might even be better to die. Maybe, but my parents, my friends, they haven't really seen stuff. Except Jenna, and now TJ, and Carl, after all this started. Brian grins with his crooked and missing teeth. Seems we only see shit if there's a reason to. I don't know what it is either, but from what I've seen, it's a combination of a shitty experience and being an echo. The truck is slowing down a little, and now we start taking sharper turns. Brian's calmed down at least, but it also means that we're definitely deep in the mountains at this point, the road having turned to gravel. When I was a kid in Peyton, I didn't see shit, even though I had a pretty fucked up childhood. My mom left when I was 6 because my dad was a piece of shit. But you know, she's a piece of shit for leaving me with him. Anyway, you know where my dad told me she'd gone? I don't say anything until Brian looks back down at me expectantly. Where? Brian cackles, and it sends a chill up my spine. That aliens had taken her. Ha ha ha. I press myself deeper into the well, wishing I could just disappear into the floor. I think he must have been drunk or high, or both, but stuck with me, you know? I nod, trying to keep the bear happy as he drives along the road so curvy it seems impossible in my mind. Then, when I was a teenager in '87 or so, I got myself a boyfriend. Well, more of a fuck buddy. We kind of hated each other. He talked too much, but he was good fuck and the only faggot I knew, so I came here every other week so to fuck him. But then something weird happened on my second or third trip out here. I remember the moon was red that night because the forest fires out west. And I kept looking at it, and that's when I saw a flying saucer. Like one straight out of a cartoon with lights and a dome thing on top. I couldn't believe it, but there it fucking was floating through the sky. And you know, even though it looked stupid as fuck, I knew. Brian takes a big, wide turn, and the truck slows more and more until it comes to a rumbling halt. My ears ring in the silence as Brian continues to stare out into the night. The headlights light up his face. I knew I saw it, and it was fucking evil. I just knew it. Brian finally looks down at me again. That night, and almost every night after, I'd wake up and couldn't move, and aliens would be around my bed. And there was this one alien I knew was my mom. She didn't look like my mom, she looked like an alien. But I just knew it was her, and she'd do these things to me, sometimes to my mouth, and eyes, and nose. But usually to my dick. Torture me, and it felt fucking real. Brian chuckles, still staring at me. Fucked me up good, and I blame my boyfriend for it, for bringing me to Echo, because I was sure that's where the evil came from. I ousted him that year, and he had to leave town because of it. The massive bear shakes his head. Didn't stop the dreams, though. Brian puts the truck in park, and then shuts off the engine. We sat there in darkness and silence, and even though I had just emptied my bladder, I feel like I'm gonna piss myself again. Never told anyone that before. I don't say anything, as I just breathe through my mouth, trying to make it as little sound as possible. There's something fucked up in this town that makes us see things, feel things from our past, or some shit. Duke told me about it. Now, it's been happening a long fucking time, how it's been happening. But he thinks there's a way to fix it. Brian suddenly opens the door and jumps out. He slams the door hard, enough to make my ears pop. For about 5 seconds, I will myself to move, to turn, to open the door, and sprint into the night. But my body refuses to move, and before I know it, the bear is yanking open my door and grabbed me by the wrist. Oh, that's where he shot him. Good thing they did put that in there. Because it would be like, okay, where's the gunshot? And if you help me out with this, we can be done with it for good. He pulls me out roughly. My legs are like rubber when he sets me on the ground, but he holds me up easily with his paws on my arms. Can you promise me to help? Can you promise me to... Then I'll let you go, and we'll be free of the evil, okay? All he can do is nod dumbly. Alright, it's gonna be okay, Otter. I promise. Brian transfers his iron-like grip to my wrist and starts to pull me along. I stumble after him weakly, trying not to trip in the darkness. Brian stops next to the truck bed and starts to rummage around inside. I feel like I'm gonna pee again. What do you need me to do, though? Brian finally pulls something out and looks shiny and heavy. I open my mouth to scream, but that's when a burst of light comes out from one of the ends of it. It's a mag light. I stare at it, gaping stupidly. Brian sweeps the beam of lights around. I guess it's like one of those extremely powerful flashlights. All around is gravel, sagebrush, and some cacti. I have no idea where we are. I need to get something, and it's in a place that's too small for me to squeeze into. I need your help to get it, okay? Okay, but what is it? Brian ignores me, looking around. He seems to settle on a direction and sets off, pulling me along with him. Anyway, it makes me think. All these ghosts and UFOs and monsters people see in the woods, I think they're all connected somehow. Yeah? I focus on trying to keep the bear happy, pretending to be interested in his ramblings. Meanwhile, we're not even on a trail, just pushing through thick brush and sharp rocks. Yeah, little bits of echo are everywhere in the world. Some small like a house, some huge like a town. That makes sense? No, it doesn't. None of that makes sense. But I have to focus on getting away from this bear. I know I should have just made a run for it back at the car, but there's no hope in that now. We walk for maybe 100 yards. As we do, the land starts to incline and become steep. Brian even slips a few times, and I'm worried he's going to fall on top of me. Each time he manages to catch himself and yank me up after him. After a few minutes of huffing and puffing, we reach a bit of an outcrop with some large boulders. Brian lets go of me and clambers up the side of one, and before I can even think of running, he's turned around and grabbed me by the scruff. I squeak, as if I'm lifted in the air, feeling like a pup again before I'm set down beside the bear. Brian looks around, keeping a hold of my wrist as he does. After some stomping and looking around with his flashlight, he seems to find what he's looking for. He brings us to the edge of a boulder. Then he lifts me up again, this time by the wrist. I kick around for a moment before he lowers me slowly into a dark, spacious hole. I start to wonder if it's going to go down for a while, then I panic, before my feet touch down on soft, cold dirt. Musty, cold air wafts from the black space in front of me. Immediately, Brian drops down next to me, snatching up my paw again. He shines light into the dark, patch in front of me, and I see what looks like a narrow tunnel burrowing into the side of an incline we're on. "What is that?" Brian grunts and starts to pull me into the opening, but I pull back. Brian yanks me hard, and it feels like he almost dislocates my shoulder. I yelp loudly, "Shut up." He hisses at me as he turns sideways to better fit into the tunnel. It's the mine, you idiot." "What?" I look back at the opening, back toward Echo, gently illuminated by moonlight. "I thought it was sealed." "It is." One sec. This is the back entrance. Duke told me about it years ago. He said his family known about it for decades. He pushed through for a while until he come to another tunnel. This one twice as wide as the one we were just in. It branches to the left and to the right. Brian stands there for a moment, inhaling deeply as he looks around. "Hang on, it's been a while." I can't help myself from blurting out, "You don't know where to go?" I expected him to hit me or something, but he ignores me. Finally, he pulls me to the left. The idea of being trapped here with Brian, lost in a mine, is more terrifying than anything that's happened in the town so far. I mean, there's a long list of terrifying things, but sure. The air is so musty and dry, I feel like coughing and sneezing at the same time, but I try to hold it in so I don't upset Brian. I walk for another 10 minutes or so, taking a few more turns. I try to memorize the route in case I'm able to break free, but after 5 or so branches, I realize I can't remember the second or third. Brian suddenly speaks up, nearly making me jump in the darkness. After a while, I stop seeing aliens. His grip is tight, and I can feel the circulation in my paw is cut off. It's like it's just a mass of pins and needles at this point. Now, I just see people. Kind of people. People you know? Try to keep Brian talking while I think. At some point, he's going to have to let go of me again, and it's then that I'm going to have to make a run for it, no matter what. Kudzu probably saw which direction he drove off in. He probably went to Leo to get the car. By this point, I doubt they're going to be able to find us. At least, not this time, in time. We went into the mountains, probably through some back road that none of us even knew existed. Then Brian took me through hundreds of yards of desert to find a tiny opening behind some boulders. There's no way they're gonna find me here. I'm on my own. Well, I see just one person, but the person changes every now and then. Brian pauses, looking in the narrow opening in the tunnel wall, even more narrow than the first passage, depending on who it was I last knew. Knew? Before I can figure out what he meant by that, I'm shoved hard, forced to enter the passage in front of Brian. It's just wide enough that I can walk straight, my shoulders nearly touching both sides. Brian, on the other hand, has to suck in and move sideways, grunting and cursing and making all kinds of noises. Brian lets go of me as he tries to pull himself through, though he keeps knocking into me to send me forward. I could try and escape, but I have a feeling that doesn't exist ahead of me. In fact, it feels like I'm being trapped. I can't explain it, but I start to get a terrible feeling that something awful is waiting for me at the end of this passage. And then I start to smell something. It's old, almost covered up by dust and mustiness, but it's just definitely there. Sweet and sick, something rotting. It feels like ice water is poured down my back, and I freeze, only to be given a shove by the bear behind me. I fall forward into the wider opening. The smell entombs me, and I know without looking that I'm surrounded by death. I lay there on the floor, not moving, listening to Brian as he tries to squeeze through the opening. I can remember years ago, when I was maybe 12, walking along the dirt road back home after hanging out with Carl. On the side of the road, I saw some roadkill, and Just as I pass by, I can see the white maggots writhing through its fur. The smell from that single moment was almost unbearable, and I gagged and ran past. And while the odor in here is a bit more faint, it's almost exactly the same. I hear Brian finally shift free from the exit, and he shines light back down on me. Hey, it's the cave from... I think this could also be from Morinatsu, but it's definitely from the smoke room. I know I should run. I know I need to get the fuck out of here. I know I should be fighting like hell. Because I know it's coming. Is this what it's like for people to get kidnapped or murdered? People wonder why they didn't fight harder or run when they had the chance. I should have run the second we stopped in the truck. But right now, it's like I'm stuck in ice. My frantic thoughts are interrupted as Brian grasps me by the back of the shirt and pulls me back up to my feet. I'm not able to stand, and just short of crumpled down next to him. The bear grunts and drags me along into the little opening that we're in, dropping me against the wall. As Brian fumbles with the flashlight, I get a glimpse of my surroundings. It's small, maybe about 15 feet long, 10 feet wide. It's narrow enough that Brian takes up most of the space, and it'd be hard pressed to get past him. I draw my knees up to my chest and hug them, feeling numb. God, you're such a useless piece of shit. I watch Brian lean over something against the wall. It looks like two long, polished pieces of wood. Brian tips the flashlight down, and I see that those pieces of wood are attached to a shovel and a pickaxe. Brian grabs the pickaxe, and for a heart-stopping moment, I think he's going to turn to me. But instead, he reaches into a pocket and pulls out something small and rectangular. It's not until he opens it and shines his flashlight on it that I see it's some kind of small notebook. The bear looks at the notebook, then back up to the little cave we're in. The silence is almost unbearable, and I feel the need to say something, if only to kill that silence. What are you doing? You know exactly what he's doing. Brian ignores me as he continues to search for something. I whimper softly in the back of my throat. Please. About to be murdered, and you just beg like a little bitch. Shut up. I can't help it as I hiss through my teeth at that goddamn voice. I don't need to hear it, especially now. Brian stiffens and turns around. What? I shake my head, squinting and unable to see his face, as the bear turns the light on me. Nothing. I just... No, you're talking to something. Did you see someone? No, I don't know. I shut my eyes against the light and only see blood red. Brian chuckles and my vision goes back to black, as he takes the light off me. I was the same way as you. Let me tell you something though. Ignore it. Ignoring it ain't gonna make it go away. Brian finally stops scanning around the ground and crouches down. It takes a moment to realize what he's looking at until he reaches down and picks it up. A smooth stone. Brian looks at it for a moment, thinking. Then he drops it off to the side and looks back down at his book. Daniel, 19, ferret. He was the smallest, I think. Should be enough room. Brian shines light back down on the ground for a moment, then seems to make up his mind as he sets the butt of the flashlight on the ground. It brightly lights up the ceiling, leaving us in a dim yellow glow. Brian eyes me for a moment, positioning himself so he can watch me while also doing his work. Crouching over, Brian starts breaking through the hard surface of the dirt with a pickaxe, grunting with each stroke. He can only do little short swings, the ceiling too low for Brian to even stand up straight. At this point, the smell of Brian has almost overwhelmed the stench of death. I guess it's one of the few things I don't mind his smell covering up. Why aren't you at least trying to escape? Because he's in the way. Because you're a coward. Why the fuck are you talking to me now? I thought you left. I never left. You know that. You felt me even after you left the town. And sorry that you probably hear barks outside, though hopefully the noise cancellation covers that up. I shouldn't have come back. Probably not. Going insane brings back memories of my old life. I'm going insane, and it's bringing back all of my old demons. No, I think it's because you're in the mine. I think you figured out that it's the source of everything, haven't you? It's the quartz. The voice I've been trying to ignore all week has changed. It's not vague or insidious anymore. It's more natural, like a real person. More like what I've used to hear when I was a kid. Well, I was a real person. Sometimes I even doubt I am that person. It chuckles and I feel the back of my brain itch. More like what do you call it? A simulation? It waits for an answer, but I don't want to talk to it. Oh, stop pretending I'm not here. You can feel me. You felt me looking over your shoulder since you've got here. I let my head thump against my knees, closing my eyes. Well, really, ever since Sydney. Just ignore it. But I can understand. Even I feel as though something is controlling me. It's the oddest thing. Hey! I snapped my head up, jumping as I find the bear staring straight at me. How are you mumbling? Nothing. Brian chuckles again and reaches across to the other wall, grabbing the shovel. He starts digging up the loose patch of dirt in front of him. Yeah, keep it to yourself, I guess. But like I said, you ain't the only one. Brian gestures behind him with a thumb towards the ground. I look and see nothing except a few stones on the ground. After Rachel back there, things got way worse than aliens for me. I saw her at night, crawling on my ceiling, peeking out from under my bed, staring at me from my window. Brian grunts as he digs the shovel deep, then lifts, turning a pile of dirt out to the side. So did Duke, drove him crazy, turned him into a speed addict. Not that I mind, he was always my most reliable customer. The sick, sweet smell starts to grow again and starting to become overpowering. I feel like I should keep him talking, get him comfortable, and buy myself more time. Should you, though? Who's Rachel? Duke's wife. I try to remember what I know about Duke's marriage, aside from the fact that he isn't married anymore. I realize then that I do remember Rachel, but just barely. She was only around while I was in grade school, and was pretty nice as far as I can remember. Didn't he divorce her? Brian shrugs as he keeps digging, resting on the handle. I guess he sort of did, but I mean, she was dead by then. They wanted my stuff. But didn't have the money, so I cut him a deal to fuck for the drugs instead. I mean, I can't say I like bitches at all. Annoying and whiny, but she let me go way further than Duke ever did, so I mainly fucked around with her. It's not hard for me to picture exactly what that fucking was. Then one day, I guess I went too far. She died. We buried her right there. Brian points more specifically at a rock sitting against the other side of the wall. The big bear starts to dig again, more vigorously, lengthening the patch she's working on. But I didn't see her until right after I buried her, maybe a week later. The bear shakes his head and laughs mockingly. You'd think it saw me from doing it again, but you know, when that last breath came out of her, and she sort of shuddered on the table. Brian glanced up at me, blew my load without even touching it. Made me wonder how good it could be with a guy if it was that good with a bitch. You want him to keep talking? Brian pauses in a sudden spurt of digging and looks up at me again. Probably wondering why I'm telling you this, thinking I'm crazy, but I don't know, feels good to tell someone. You're like my own therapy otter. I want a therapy otter. The bear looks back down at the Holy Maid. The smell coming out of it is so overpowering, I'm on the verge of gagging again. Well, I guess that means he isn't digging my grave. I don't see her anymore, though. It changes with each one. 7 stones. And it'll probably change again. And with that, the bear comes at me. The space is so small, it only takes him 2 steps. I scream and cover my face. Coward. And try to fold up into a tight ball as I can. Before I know it, Brian has me by the back of my shirt. He drags me over until I'm kneeling next to the hole. I can see it's definitely a grave now. You already knew. Because I can see the bones poking through the dirt, and the bits of blue and white cloth that were its clothes. You mean Daniel, the 19-year-old ferret. I feel like telling all this to you, and me being nice to you so far. Maybe don't come back after me. Just move on. I feel Brian move around behind me, then press something cold into the back of my head. A gun. I guess Brian probably has plenty of those. I'm doing the town some good after all. How? I blurted out, my mind racing, trying to think of something, anything to get out of this. Brian does pause though. How what? How's this helping anyone? Why are you doing this? A few seconds go by. I'm sure I'm about to hear the crack of a pistol, the last thing I'll ever hear. Then Brian sighs. Again, I feel like I should tell you everything, so you know, so you don't have to come back and fuck with me. But Duke, he said this all started when you came back. I told you, I have no idea why. My voice rises in pitch as I start to panic. Duke had already tried to kill me, even after we'd tried to convince him I had nothing to do with any of this. Not any of this? Are you sure of that? I feel Brian set his feet behind me, and I can picture him getting ready to pull the trigger. I am going to die. This keeps happening, doesn't it? This hysteria. I'm sorry. Remember, this is for the good of the town. To me, it's like the town holds its breath, letting all the evil build up until it has to let it all out in one big go. Brian grips onto my head fur, pressing the barrel of the gun into the back of my head. And you brought a lot of guilt and evil with you back to this town. Maybe that was enough to push it over the edge again. Rest easy. So, in a way, this is your fault, isn't it? My eyes are watering, and I don't know if it's from Brian's grip on my fur, or if I'm crying. Help me. I say it to you. Well, I feel like that's a good time to call it, since we're over time and stuff. I keep on being like, I want to finish this, but then also I want to be like, okay. I want to finish this, but then before I, switch away from visual novels for a little bit, do a little bit of Sileo Tales of a New Dawn, one that isn't so... Oh, visual hello. So, yeah. Please comment. Guys, like comments, how much you like, dislike, tips, tricks, always. If you like my YouTube and would like to see it grow, then please like, subscribe, and check out the videos to help it grow. And please remember to spay and neuter your animals to help control the pet population. And until next time, on another Let's Play, me, GamerWolfSix of Echo. Oh, and if you want to play this game, we actually don't see that. Of, Echo. No, wait. Free on itch out, Patreon. Let me turn off face rig. Shadow Chase. Hyena. No, thanks and see ya.